was 3 or 4. I know someone chatted earlier, is this 5? It honestly doesn't matter where you actually start. All of them will recycle around and repeat. So you are in good position. Okay. So I want to introduce to you the person that will do the first half of our workshop. Also have a workbook. You may or may not. This is workbook, right? So in here, this is what our workbook looks like. So hopefully each of you actually have a workbook, and this is workshop number 1. So you'll be able to follow along the pages. If you don't have a workbook, it's okay. Remember to get with the person who invited you and say, hey, I want to be able to attend my workshops. I need a workbook. Okay. So you're in the right place at the right time with the right vehicle. Welcome. And we're excited all of you are here. Carl, I hand it over to you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the kind words. As Dalitha mentioned, myself and my wife, we've been in the industry for a little bit over 20 years. And we've been thankful that we've been able to have what we believe is a successful career. But a lot of that is based on because the way we go about helping people, which is by providing education. Sure. So today, I'm honored and privileged to be able to share with you Workshop 1, which is increasing cash flow and debt management. Matter of fact, it's my favorite workshop of all of them. Even though all the workshops have great information, I find, when you look as a whole, people technically, or in most cases, they want to get out of debt and they want to increase their cash flow. And I find if you can do that, then you can do all the other securing your finances and doing just much more. And so before we get started, I do want to cover a couple of disclaimers. It says information in this presentation should not be interpreted as accounting, investment, legal, or tax advice. It's not an offer to sell or solicit anything in terms of buying a security or insurance product. Our workshops are for educational purposes only, and our national campaign for literacy is to bring financial awareness and education. So we're here to just make sure that you are aware of how to do better with your own monies, right? In terms of getting that financial education that's needed. And so you're not going to learn everything during the course of this workshop. As much as myself and Dalitha would love to download all our knowledge into you today, it's just something that we can't. So we hope that you're going to learn some basic financial concepts, gain more confidence in reaching your financial goals, and help empower you to help others do the same. And so to help preserve the integrity, right, of our workshop and our context of this information, we do ask that you do not take any photos, videos, or pictures, right? Especially of the content. Now, once we close the content, if you want to take a picture of me and Dalitha, feel free, that's fine. Just make sure we're smiling. That's all that we ask, right? We just don't want unwanted pictures of us not looking so great, okay? So first things first, welcome. We appreciate you. Again, welcome to Workshop 1. I know many of you have already registered for this workshop. We do encourage you to register for all the remaining workshops that are happening throughout the month. If you've done your homework from the last class, kudos to you, hats off to you, but make sure that you're doing your homework. Inside the workbook, right, this workbook here, there's actual assignments that you can complete. I do encourage you to complete them, as it will help you ultimately, in my opinion, help you become your own money manager, right? And so make sure that you review and take advantage as well as of our membership benefits. We have a lot of benefits in terms of being a campaigner. One of the best things I can tell you about being a campaigner of our organization is you get firsthand, right, experience and knowledge on how to be your own money manager. And I think that in itself is priceless. And so we're hoping you're going to get a lot of value from WSB and from referring others. But we just want to make sure as you attend workshops, please make sure you bring your workbook. It's no good attending a class without having the material with you. So we just want to make sure that you're well prepared. And then we'll have some announcements toward the end so that you can also understand what we're doing as an organization and how you can be a part of that. And so our mission is to build and protect wealth for families. Just by a show of hands, who here would like to build wealth for their families? For your family? And you can all raise your hand, right? Or you can put in the chat line, yes or no. Matter of fact, today you're going to find, if this is your first workshop or maybe your first workshop with Dalitha and I, we do like participation, right? So feel free to write in the chat line when we ask questions, raise your hand. It just makes it much more fun for all of us, right? So we want to help you move forward and helping you have financial security and financial independence, right? So our vision is to build a new industry with 1 million business associates worldwide and revolutionize the financial industry. And we're going to do so by helping the consumers, right? Helping the consumers because we find that there's a big dilemma. There's a lack of understanding, a lack of planning, a lack of support. Ultimately, there's just a lack of financial education. We don't know what we don't know, right? And many of times the things that we believe we know, unfortunately, are far from the truth. Right? So we want to make sure that you have better understanding. And so I want to lead with this thought before I actually get into the content of today's workshop, I want you to think about two questions. As I share with you workshop one, and as Delita shares with you the latter part of workshop one. Number one, if what we share with you today makes sense, right? Write this down. If it makes sense, then get involved. When I say get involved, make sure that you're participating in these workshops. Get involved and learn more about your money. So if what we share with you makes sense, get involved. Number two, what I want you to think about as we talk about workshop one is if this information could better your financial future, right? If it could better your financial future as well as others, then can you make sure that you take action? So again, if it makes sense, get involved. If it's going to better your financial future, then take action. Okay, that's what we're going to ask of you today as you listen and learn more about workshop one, which is getting out of debt and increasing your cash flow, right? So we want to do it right and do it with pride. And I believe starting with doing it right is making sure people fundamentally have a place to gain access for financial education. And that's why WSB, we have our financial educational workshops. So congratulations to all of you. I believe you are the fortunate few, right? The fortunate few that are going to get a chance to learn how to get your money to work for you, right? So it says here, most people work for money, but few know how to make money work for them. Now, if you think about that thought for a moment, what's easier to do? You work for money or money work for you, right? For the most part, I think everyone would agree it's having money work for you. But in reality, how often does that happen? Many of cases you find, right, Mary? Many of times we find we're working for money rather than money working for us. Well, you got to understand these things so that we could better secure our financial future. So we want to help you control your finances. Control your future. I personally believe, just through my 20 plus years of experience, controlling your finances, controlling your future starts with getting a financial education, understanding what to do with your money, making sure that you know that money does matter. And you got to make sure, how does it matter to you and your family? Well, get an education, right? So you're going to see on the bottom left-hand side, right, over here, on my side, I think it's on your side, right-hand side, right? You're going to see workbook page 6. So if you have your workbook, you can easily turn to workbook page 6 and you can write down the questions or the answers to the questions that we'll cover. So just make sure you follow along. So as we begin, right, you want to establish your financial goals. You know, a lot of times I find when we get started out in understanding our finances, I think ultimately you got to know what your objectives are. So, you know, if you could turn to me on page 6, right? If you have your workbook, right? It says here in the workbook, what are your financial goals? So you got to make sure first and foremost, you got to assess your own situation. Identify first, what are your financial goals? And then whatever they are, you got to ask yourself, do you actually have them written down? And do you actually have a plan of action? And if the answer is yes, they're written down. Yes, you have a plan of action. What are you doing to actually execute that plan? Right? And what are some things you need to improve on? So if you go to work page 6, some things that you want to look at is like, what's your cash flow management, right? Your income versus your expenses. You want to take a look at your short term, right? What are your spending and saving goals? What are your retirement savings? Do you have any retirement savings? What are you saving in? Whether it's a 401k, IRA, whatever it is, what is your goal? And what is your plan to help achieve that goal? What are your family savings like? Are you saving money for your kids' education? Do you have a child education fund? Some sort of place where you're saving at? You know, in regards to your wealth, as you start making money, do you have tax strategies or do you understand different tax vehicles to help minimize your taxes? Then what's your net worth? And then you also want to look at your income protection and your family protection. So those are just some goals that I think that we all need to consider. So if you, again, go to page 6, make sure that you really identify what are your financial goals and ask yourself, do you have a plan in place? And if not, when will you get one? And when you get one, will you execute and take action? And then to me, I think part of that is just getting the guidance, learning how to be your own money manager and working with people like myself, Delita, and many of the others that are here to guide you through that process. So workshop 1 is about increasing your cash flow, turning us from spenders into educated savers. Anyone here want to increase their cash? Just by a show of hands, right? If you're not raising your hand, then there's a problem, right? Even I know, David, you make money, still you raise your hand. So you find it very interesting. People that actually are well-to-do, even they want to increase their cash flow, right? And so we're going to share with you how to turn ourselves again from spenders into educated savers. So what you're going to learn today is that it's not about how much money you make. Right? A lot of times people think it's about how much we make. In essence, yes, that is part of it. But what's more true It's about how much we can actually keep. Because what good is it? You and I, we make, let's say, 100,000, but you only get to keep like 60,000. That's a good amount of money, right? That we don't get to keep. So yes, I think there is some importance in making money, but the value lies on how much we actually keep. So you're going to learn how to keep more of your money. And as you learn that, again, I want you to think about what we share with you today. If it makes sense, get involved. If it's going to put you in a better position, then please, right? I implore you, take action. So here at WSB, we know money isn't the greatest wealth. Applied knowledge is. You ever heard the saying, knowledge is powerful? I think everyone's heard of that, right? I will be the first to say this to you, probably, likely, that I disagree 100% with that statement. And I know some people look at me and they say, how can that be possible? We hear it all the time. Knowledge is powerful. Well, that's not quite true, right? Because see, you could have all the knowledge in the world, right? We can show you how to get out of debt, increase your cash flow. But if you do nothing with it, it's just as useless. Matter of fact, it's even worse. Because now that you know and you do nothing, quite honestly, I just think it's simply worse, right? So it's applied knowledge that's powerful. It's not knowledge itself. So what you're going to learn today is you're going to discover how to find, right, an extra $100 to $200 you didn't know you had. If we can show you how to find an extra $100 to $200, anyone here be excited? Or maybe that's not enough, right? I don't know. Well, we got to get you started somewhere, right? But if we help you find an extra $100 to $200 that you didn't know you had, I find that many people would be excited. I want you to think about, what will you do with it? We're going to show you what the cost of wasting $6.60 a day. What does it actually cost you? You know, when I see $6.60, you know what I automatically refer that to? Starbucks coffee. Thank goodness for shelter in place. I mean, I kid you not, since staying at home, I've saved more money the last 6 months. I don't know whether to be thankful or to be sad because I don't get to enjoy those things. But man, my bank account looking a lot better because I'm spending a lot less, right? But what does it actually cost you? You're going to learn where your money's going, which is so important. You know, a lot of times, the reason why people either have money or they don't have money is because they have no accountability of their money. They can't take account for something they don't hold accountable. So you got to know where your money's going. You're going to understand some misconceptions of an asset versus a liability. And yes, there's misconceptions. Even myself, before this industry, I had thought, right? Or I had an idea of what I thought were assets versus liabilities. We're going to give some clarity to that. You're going to know the tax advantages of being a business owner. Yes, there are tax advantages of having your own business. Some that you may not have considered, some that, quite honestly, you know, when I look for ourselves, adds a lot of value to what we have in terms of income. You're going to see the potential of earning money with WFG. And hopefully, right, that's something that you could take into a high consideration. Again, I only want you to think about two things as I talk or as we share with you today. If what we share with you makes sense, again, get involved. If you believe it's going to put you in a better position, take action. So you're going to see some of these things, right? So again, if you refer to page 7 in your workbook, you can fill in the answers that are underlined. So to increase your cash flow, there's only 2 ways. Does anyone know, especially, and I'm only asking those that have not attended workshop 1 already, so please don't steal anyone's thunder, right? How do you increase your cash flow? Anyone know? Right? If this is your first time here attending our workshop, how would you say you can increase your cash flow? Marry someone that's more wealthy than you? Yes, that's one way, but that's not the answer I'm looking for. No, right? Hope and pray somebody passes away and leaves you wealth? Yes, that's another way, but again, that's not an answer I'm looking for, right? The way that you and I can increase our cash flow, thank you for writing it in the chat line, right? So someone put not spend, invest, budgeting. Yes, those are all good answers, right? I prefer marry someone more wealthy, right? But again, we're not all that fortunate. The real way to increase cash flow is this way. Let me share with you, right? The real way is this. You got to earn more money, right? Whether that is you work more, you get another job, higher paying job, or yes, some of you said invest. You got to learn how to make your money make money for you. So you got to earn more, right? Second way you increase your cash flow is you got to spend less. Yes, that is part of budgeting or not spending. Again, I'm very thankful for the time that we're in. Even though this is an unfortunate situation, we're living in what we call an unprecedented pandemic crisis. I think those are going to be the 3 famous words of 2020, right? Yes, but it's allowed us, quite honestly, at least I'll say for myself, to save more money these last 6 months. We spent less. So you want to increase your cash flow, you got to learn how to earn more money and you got to spend less. So let's talk about two people, right? There's two types of people when it comes to money. There's what I call, have you ever heard of an alpha and a beta? Anyone heard of what an alpha is and a beta? Like if you were to choose without us actually defining it, what would you say you are? Would you say you're an alpha or would you say you're a beta? And whatever you say you are, which one would you prefer to be? Would you prefer to be an alpha or a beta? Right? So just so you understand, alphas, right, are those that typically lead. Betas are those that typically follow. Right? So why is that important as it relates to money? Well, you got to understand there are two types of people in our world or in our circle as it pertains to money. There's person A that as they make money, the first thing they decide to do is save first. They understand the value and the importance of paying themselves first. Then, right, whatever is left after they've saved, that's what they look to spend. Then person B or beta, right, what they do first is they spend. As soon as they make money, as a matter of fact, it's not even as soon as they make money. You ever done this before? I know, I'll admit, right? It took me a while to move from B to A. Before I even made money, right? Before I even earned that paycheck on Friday, I already had a thought in mind and I've already bought it. Has anyone ever done that before? You've actually bought things before you actually even earned your money, right? So a lot of times we spend money before we've earned it. And then if something is left over, hoping and praying something's left over, we attempt to save. Well, somewhere along that way, if we want to position ourselves to do better with our monies, right? And to build wealth for our families, we got to move from type B to type A. We got to learn how to save first and spend next, right? And what you're going to see is this. Many of the people that are type B people, you know what? They also work for type A people. Now, I don't know about you, but there was a time in my life many years ago, I got tired of working for people. And I needed to start figuring out how I can have people work for me or people I can work with. More importantly, how I can get my money to work for me. So how did I do that? I had to change my circle. I had to change my environment. I had to be around people that were like type A people, right? So A, as you and I make income, we save, we invest, and we look to build wealth. Type B people, right? They make income, get into debt, spend, and you find that they're broke in most cases. Would you guys agree? You look around, you know, for the most part, that's most of the society that we live in today. And so we got to figure a way to break that cycle. And so as we do that, we need to find ways to save more and spend less. And again, you can reference page 8 and you can write these answers down. And if you don't have a workbook, what I'd encourage you to do, just get a blank sheet of paper, write page 8 and all the stuff that's underlined, write those answers down. So that way we can get a workbook to you, because our workshops are designed, again, to help you become your own money manager. Right? And the only way that I can believe that you're going to be your own money manager is if you take great notes and you learn how to apply these things in your life, right? So ultimately, we want to help people learn how to pay themselves first. So you got to think about it, right? When you and I pay ourselves first, what would you rather make a payment first to? To your family, your children, your future, and then spend what's left? Or spend first and try to save what's left for your family, your children, your future? You know, in many cases, what we're doing, and again, I'll be the first to say, right? Many of years ago, I would spend first. And then I was fortunate enough to be or given access to financial education like what you have today, what we're doing today. And I started to realize all the people I was paying first, those people would never pay me when I needed the most, right? The only person that's going to ever pay me would be me, myself, and I. So I got to make sure that I put a lot of value, stress a lot of importance of paying myself first, as I would encourage you to, right? So part of understanding if you're really paying yourself first is identify, right? Identify what are your expenditures. So if you can go to workbook page number 9 and just write down some expenses. If we could just take a moment to do this exercise, just all of us, like today, I'm in Texas, it's 1:21, right? I'm certain somewhere along today, you spent some type of money, whether it was to pay the electricity bill, whether it was to pay your cell phone bill, but you used some form of money today. If you could just share with me, right, in the chat line, what did you spend your money on today, right? Has anybody spent money today? I love Sylvia saying, no, thank you. You're one person that hasn't spent money, so that's awesome. But I'm certain, like if you have kids, right, you got to pay for expenses for your kids. They're going back to school. Right? Maybe you got your hair done. Maybe you got your makeup done. I don't know, right? I got a haircut, but I did it myself because I wasn't trying to pay somebody, right? CE for license. Thank you, Frank. Yes, we need to make sure we pay for our continuing education, right? You paid a bill, got a haircut, food. So what I encourage you to do is this. If you ever really want to know what your money's doing and how it's doing, whether good or bad, you need to take account for every dollar you spend, not just on a monthly basis, but on a daily basis. I find the moment, and I only speak from my own experience, the moment I identify what I was spending on a daily basis, I can start to see where am I unnecessarily spending money. You know, years ago when I was a mortgage banker, right, I used to buy soda. I used to buy Coke every single day, 3 times a day. I buy it in the morning, buy it at lunch, and I buy it right when I leave from work. And I would spend about $1.50 every single time. So that's $4.50 a day, 5 days a week. You're talking about $25. And it never dawned on me I was spending $25 on a bottle of soda every day, 3 times a day. And then one day somebody said, hey, Carl, I noticed you buy a lot of soda, right? Why don't you ever just go to like Costco, Sam's Club, buy a whole case? And I was like, you know, it's okay, right? At that time, I was like, it's okay because I have money. They said, no, it's not about having money. It's just about saving money. And it didn't really dawn on me until I started identifying how much I was spending every single day. So I encourage you, right? If you really want to get a better hold of your money, write down all your expenses. You know, most people, as I give you this challenge, try it for the next 30 days. Most people can't even last 7 days writing it down. But yet, those are the same people that wish and pray one day they'll be wealthy. If you want to be wealthy or build wealth, you got to know where every dollar is going. And start with tracking it daily, right? Do you spend your money wisely? You know, I find, again, being sheltered in place, you know, we haven't spent much money, but there were some times during this last 6 months, I get on Amazon. My wife would get on Amazon. Is she still on? Before I say anything, I better be careful because she's listening, right? Man, she'd get on Amazon and like day after day after day, there'd be a package. I'm like, what is going on? So, you know, after I start seeing that, we got to get a hold of that, right? But you got to make sure that we're looking at our monies, because the step 2 is there's areas that you need to reevaluate. And so I'm going to share with you in the next 5 minutes here, 10 minutes here, how to actually find money you didn't know you had. Matter of fact, pages 10 and 11 are my 2 favorite pages in the whole entire workbook. So whatever you do, if you don't have a workbook, write this stuff down, right? If you have a workbook, highlight this page, because these are the 2 pages that ultimately, in my opinion, will lead you to your financial goals. So I want you to think about this before I get started. Has anyone here ever done the laundry? Well, hopefully everyone's done laundry, right? Because that would be kind of awkward, right? So I'm going to assume that we all do laundry, right? Or someone in your house does laundry, right? You do the laundry, your clothes are in there, goes through washer, goes through dryer. If you're fortunate enough, you have someone that folds your clothes, and then one day you put on a pair of pants, pair of jeans, and then you go reach in your pocket, and what do you find? You find some money. You find $5. And in that moment, Jennifer, you're like, oh my goodness, I found $5. And you're so excited. Isn't that true? Who here's found money from doing laundry? Anyone? My wife loves doing my laundry because she always seems to find my money, but she never tells me, right? So she gets excited, but I don't get that chance. But so most of us, right, we find money when we do laundry, and you get excited, right? You get excited when you find that. You know what's interesting about that thought or about that process? You get excited, we get excited about finding money that already belonged to us. How does that make any sense? That $5 you just found, it was always yours. It's not like you won the lotto. It was always yours to begin with. The problem with that is we misplaced it. Well, did you know that many of times as we put money out there, we're misplacing our monies and we don't know it? So I'm going to share with you some ways that you could find money that you're possibly misplacing and you don't even know it. You know, I did this exercise with a very good friend of mine, a physician, and I'm not saying this will be for you, but I'm pretty certain if we go through all 26 different ways in depth, right? And I don't have the time to do it today, but I encourage you, whoever invited you out, make sure you go through all 26 different ways for yourself. Because I find when I do this with our friends, our clients, that we find not 100, not 200, but several hundreds of dollars. I found one lady, Delita, I found a lady, $2,000 in money that they didn't know they had because they were just spending it because they had it to spend. Right? So number 1, right? Increase your federal tax returns, right? Check with your HR department and find out, are you claiming more Or are you claiming less, right? Sometimes many of us claim 0, claim 1. Well, that means that you and I are paying more in taxes. Well, you might need to adjust your deductions. I had a lady, right? She told me, well, I also give an extra $200 per pay period to pay taxes. And I asked him, I said, why do you do that? She was like, well, I don't ever want to have to pay taxes. I said, well, we all have to pay taxes. And she's like, well, I don't want to have to come with a tax bill when I file taxes. And so I asked her, I said, in the last 5 years to 10 years, have you ever paid taxes? She goes, no, I typically get a refund like $4,000. I said, well, that $200 a month you're putting away, that's just you paying them overpay. And they're just returning it back to you. That makes 0 sense when you still have like $20,000, $30,000 worth of credit card debt that you're not paying down. Would I rather have you do it, take that $200 every pay period and put that into your debt so you can get out of debt sooner rather than later, right? And so Delita is going to talk more about that later, but I just want you to see, why is page 10, 11 important? You got to find money that you didn't know you had so you can get rid of the liability or debt that you possibly have, right? 2, you got to eliminate and reduce cable. You know, cable's so expensive these days. Did you know that? And mostly everything you can get, you can see on TV right now. You can watch on the internet. You just download the app. If you want to watch CW, NBC, you just download the app. And if you're patient enough, you just wait 1 or 2 days and that show's there. So just, to me, all you need is internet right now. You don't need cable, right? Maybe you have a auto insurance, homeowners insurance. Maybe you're overpaying. Why do I say you're overpaying? Think about this thought. When we buy a car, we get auto insurance because in most cases it's required, right? And then a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, we're still paying for the same premium for a car that's depreciated in value. How does that make any sense? You may need to adjust your coverages. Matter of fact, if you haven't gotten in an accident, haven't filed a claim on your home in many of years, if not decades for some of us, then I believe it's more important to maybe check out increasing your deductible so you lower your premium, right? For me, this is number 4 got me, right? Lattes. You know, some of you know my story, but I'll just share with you quickly, right? I know Delita, you're smiling because she knows my story, right? So my very first year when I met my wife, right? We became best friends back in 2000, 2001. Little did she know, right? Maybe she didn't know, I don't know. But I was trying to court her, right? I was trying to court her for like a year, actually for several years. And one thing I knew that she loved, right, was Starbucks coffee. So I figured, you know what? And back then I didn't know how much Starbucks coffee was. And so I was like, yeah, let me go get her coffee. I go buy her Starbucks coffee. I'm like $4. Then it's like $5 because you add this, that, and the other. I kid you not, for a whole entire year, every day for 365 days, I bought my best friend then, now wife, a coffee every day. I courted her every day with coffee. And see, you can't, you know, Dorothy, you can't just give her coffee because it's kind of strange if you don't have coffee too, because then it kind of looks kind of stalkerish. So I had to get coffee for myself and her. So can you imagine? I was doing like $10, $12 a day. That year, that first year, I spent well over $4,000 in Starbucks coffee. Now, I know some of you are shaking your head like that's crazy. Yes and no. Why? Because I believe it was the best investment ever. Because you fast forward 9 years later, it just took 9 years to pay off. You fast forward 9 years later, she finally said yes, right? And now we've been married for the last 11 years. So it's been the best investment because little did she know, right? After investing all those monies into Starbucks, as soon as we got married, I told her, yeah, no way, no how, no more Starbucks. We're making coffee from home. So gone are those days. We treat ourselves every now and then, right? But there are many things that we spend money on. I say that kiddingly, but very seriously, right? So you can see easily, we can find money. How about cell phone, right? And I'd love to go through all 26 of these with you, but I want to stress the ones that I know that you could immediately find money in. You know, cell phone. You know, for the longest time, my wife and I, we were with AT&T. And again, I'm not promoting any cell phone company. I'm just letting you know my experience. We were with AT&T for 20 years. And we happily overly paid. I mean, we had 4 lines and we're paying easily $300, $350 a month. And we didn't even think twice about it because why? When you have money, right? Or when you have the means to pay, you don't think about it. And it's not even about not having the means. It's just about saving money, letting your money go to work for you rather than you working for money unnecessarily. So we got put onto a company called T-Mobile. Anybody heard of T-Mobile? All right. Hopefully you heard of T-Mobile. If you don't know, right, it's the pink, they have the pink logo, right? Well, little did I know, T-Mobile right? At that time, we do 4 lines, our bill goes from like $300 down to $160, almost cut in half for the same 4 lines. And they give me more benefit. I have unlimited data. I can go to Mexico. I can travel. I could use my data. All of that with AT&T, I could not. But what I love about T-Mobile is this. Anyone here have T-Mobile? Just curious. Anyone have T-Mobile? Because people that have T-Mobile, even they find this interesting when I tell them this. You know, T-Mobile has this app called T-Mobile Tuesdays. Anyone seen this, right? You can't see it because of reflection, but it's T-Mobile Tuesdays. If you haven't used it, you're missing out on a lot of money, a lot of savings. So T-Mobile Tuesdays, every Tuesday, yesterday, right? It's currently right now with Shell, they give 10 cents off per gallon, 10 cents off. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't like overpaying for anything. Does anyone here like to overpay? Well, imagine this. Shell, because of T-Mobile, they give me 10 cents off a gallon every Tuesday. So my wife, right, the worrisome person she is, you know, guess when I get gas? Before we're sheltered in place, right? Guess when I would get gas only? I would only get gas on Tuesdays. And so my fuel light could be on, and my wife, she'd be panicking like, look, I'm not pushing the car. Please get gas. And I would be like, is today Tuesday? Because if it's not Tuesday, we're not getting gas because I'm not overpaying. Because the moment you save 10 cents on a gallon, you just don't want to pay an extra 10 cents. And so that's just one area, right? They even give you free food. Anyone here like free food? Somebody just wrote Popeyes, right? They give you Burger King. I mean, it's not all the time, but it's once every week. That could save you money, right? So there's so many different areas that we could go through. But I just believe in the first like 10, you can easily find a few $100s if you go through it every single one, right? So there's ways that you can find money. And again, I do appreciate shelter in place because why? We're just spending less. But when this does lift, right, hopefully many of us will have more savings, but at least be mindful of how we spend money. Even now, right? The name of the app is T-Mobile Tuesdays. You got to be a T-Mobile user to have it. But even like last one I'll give you is like on electricity, right? Anyone here own a home or have an apartment, you got to pay electricity, right? So here in Texas, right? And I don't know if it's in the same in other states, but I'm going to pull the rest up here. But I'll go over one other one is saving money on utilities, right? Here in Texas, you know, we have the freedom to kind of choose where we want. You can even do wholesale. Well, I use this company. If you're in Texas, I use this company called Energy Ogre, right? Energy Ogre actually is not even a utilities company. They're like a database type of company. They find and research the best companies out there to provide me the best rate. So 6 months ago, right, my cost per kilowatt was like 7 cents. 7 cents, which is unheard of. Most people are paying like 13, 14 cents. That's double the cost. Now, why does that happen? Well, because what people don't realize is utilities, right? Utility companies, they actually price their cost to us at a higher rate, but they buy it at a much lower rate, right? Well, there are wholesaler companies out there that give you actually wholesale price, but you got to be willing to invest the time to find that out. So you know how much like my during the summer months, like my utility, I don't have a big house by all means, right? It's like 2,800 square foot, not a big house, but my utilities with the AC on running during the summertime, I spend, if unfortunate, right? And I say unfortunate, it's as high as like 140 a month. 140. That's as high. You know, in the winter months, you know what I pay? I pay like $40 a month. But you know, most people that have the same size house as me, I met a client of mine. They have an apartment, which is like a third the size of mine. Their utility bills during the month is usually like $200-300. See, it's just understanding where you can find money, right? And so we go through these 26 different ways to help us reevaluate where our money's at. And again, remember, right? Just like doing laundry, when you find money you didn't know you had, you get excited. But what's interesting is this is money you've always had. You just didn't know how to evaluate where it's going. So we want to make sure that we place importance of understanding where our money goes so that you could find more money, right? So these are incredible tools for us to help us do better with our money, right? So this is why I say pages 10 and 11 are my favorite pages. They're ones that can really, truly help you out. So the bottom line is this. Is if you want money, right? If you want to increase your cash flow, you just got to really understand your wants versus your needs. Cash flow is a decision. is based on choices you make, right? So if you look at the previous exercise and you do this, I encourage you to do this. What is your potential monthly amount you could save and apply towards your debt? Again, everyone that I've worked with, I've easily found them several hundreds of dollars, right? Several hundreds of dollars that we can either help put towards savings, help put towards debt. But again, the bottom line is this, just weighing out your wants versus your needs. So I'm going to give you something else that's not inside this workshop, something that I teach all my clients that we're trying to help them manage their debt. Something I've been doing for many years. And I hope that will help you too, right? So if you ever really want to weigh out your wants versus your needs and learn how to, I guess, systematically discipline yourself until you can do self-discipline, is I encourage all my clients, if you want something, right? If you want something, I have, even within our own lives, I have what I call a want list. And I'm only allowed to have 3 things on that list. And the way that list works is this. If I want something, so like some of you may have seen my phone, right? I have an iPhone, an older phone. If, let's say as an example, I want to get the i12 that's coming out in a few weeks here, right? If I want to get the i12, let's say I go get the i12. Before I get it, my rule is this. That item that I want has to sit on that list for at least at number 1 for 3 months in a row before I can buy it. It has to sit there for 3 months. So right now I want an i12. It has to sit for like 3 months. So I got to go September, October, November. End of November, if I still want it, then I will give myself the allowance to buy it. But you know what happens come 3 months later? They're already talking about i13. So guess what happens? I don't want an i12. I want an i13. And the moment I want something new, guess what? It moves down to number 2. So what I found was this. I typically always want something new every 2 to 3 months. So nothing ever really stays at number 1 for a very long period of time. And because it never stays at least for 3 months, guess what? I end up saving more money. I end up learning how to self-discipline and weigh out my wants versus my needs. So I encourage you, right? If you ever want to put in check your want versus your need, create a want list, have no more than 3 items on it. Number 1 has to sit for 3 months. Anytime you want something new, 1 goes to number 2 and your count starts all over again. You're going to find you're going to have more money after 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and you just figured out how to self-discipline your wants versus your needs. So take control of your cash flow. What is the cost of wasting $6.60 a day? So some might think that that's exactly what I did as I bought coffee for my best friend, then now wife. I don't think it's a waste. People thought I was crazy, right? People thought I was crazy for doing this. I said, man, one day she's going to say yes. And everyone around was like, no, she's not. Because she was my best friend for 8 years, 9 years. So most people would have gave up after a couple of years, Zalitha. I just stayed the course, right? I stayed focused, stayed the course. But my point is this, right? $6.60 a day. If you don't know, right, what it could be growing to, it's important. Assuming you earn 10% annually every single year, after 10 years, that $6.60 a day would grow to, right, to $42,000. In 20 years would grow to $151,000. In 30 years, $434,000. Can you imagine $434,000? That's a home, ladies and gentlemen. That's somebody's home. By wasting $6.60 a day, cost us a home. Right? Or it cost us our kids' education. Maybe not 1, but 2 kids. So it's a matter of perspective. We got to understand as we put money out there, is it working for us or are we working for it? So determine where your money goes, right? So you got to take a look at your net income after taxes, right? So you're going to make income minus your taxes, minus what I believe you should minus first, money for or saving for retirement, savings for personal things like emergency fund, and right, tithing, giving. And then whatever's left, then you look to pay all these things here according to priority, according to importance, right? So you got to make sure, again, you're identifying this. And again, I go back to accountability. If you want to know where your monies are going, you got to account for every dollar. That including what you pay to taxes, what you pay towards your savings, what you pay towards giving, right? Towards tithing, and then your expenses. Please utilize workshop page 12 in the workbook. And itemize these things. Identify where money's at. Find out, do you have a surplus or deficit? You might see you don't have a deficit, but you're close to it, right? And that's no way of living. You never want to live on the edge like that. You want to make sure that you have a surplus. If not, go back to pages 10 and 11 and really utilize those 26 exercises to learn where your money's at. Now we're going to talk about on page 13, determining your asset versus your liability and net worth. Okay. So what's an asset? An asset is something that has monetary value. What's a liability? It's a claim on your asset. What's a net worth? Asset minus liabilities. That's how you create your net worth. But I love what Robert Kiyosaki says about an asset and liability, which I'll show momentarily. But what you do on page 13, identify what your assets are, what your liabilities are. Okay. What you're going to find is this: as I move to the next page, you might see as you do this exercise, what you thought was an asset is actually a liability. And so you need to understand, right? So Robert Kiyosaki says this from Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He defines an asset and a liability as such. He says an asset is something that puts money into your pocket. So whatever you have, right? Is it putting money into your pocket? If it's not putting money into your pocket, it has no real value. It's not an asset. Right? So a lot of times people think, right? People assume, we go back here, people assume, right? If they have homes, real estate, that it puts money in their pocket. The answer is yes, it does. But does it also take money out of your pocket? Absolutely. And that's what a real liability is. A liability is taking money out of your pocket. So I know, right? Some of you are probably looking at your spouse and saying, man, you're a liability. You take money out of my pocket. We need to change that. Hopefully that's not the case, right? I know I look at my wife, I'm like, man, she's an asset, because without her, you wouldn't see what you get today. Matter of fact, because of her, this is what you see, right? She's helped me tremendously over the last 20 years, right? That we've known each other. Oh my goodness, it's been 20 years. Wow. Unbelievable. So just understand, at a fundamental level, asset is what puts money in your pocket. Liability is what takes money out of your pocket. When you have that perspective, it's much easier to understand what you should be putting your money into. Right? What you should be putting your money into. And so think about that. Take a look around within your circle. What's putting money in your pocket? What's taking money out of your pocket? Because the rich buy assets, the middle class, they buy liabilities that think they're an asset. I had a guy tell me he's into buying cars. And I said, and he wants to buy, don't get me wrong, there are some cars that do appreciate in value, but he was like, I'm going to buy these cars, I'm going to finance it. And I said, hey, time out. Is that putting money in your pocket or taking money out of your pocket? Find out very quickly it's taking money out of his pockets. I said, so it's not an asset, it's a liability. Just remember that, right? So when it comes to debt management, what do you think? Buying a new car is an asset or a liability? What would you say? Is buying a car an asset or a liability? The answer is it's a liability, right? What about those luxuries you have? Are those assets or liabilities? We got to cut down our debt and reduce our liability. How do we do that, right? It starts with commitment and discipline. If you can commit, you can discipline, you can get out of debt. So imagine this, living debt-free is less stressful. Anyone here have debt? It's okay if you don't want to raise your hand. It's okay, I understand. Nobody wants to acknowledge they have debt, myself included, right? I just know this, when you don't have debt, it's less stressful, right? Just imagine the day that you have no debt or payments. Think about how much life was simpler. I know most of us, before we ever started working, we never worried about money, right? Because we had our parents' money. But the moment you and I started making money, we started gaining responsibilities, started buying things, we started to worry about money. Life was so much simpler when we had no debt, right? So if you could use your income for building a financial freedom, how much better would your life look like and feel like with no financial stress? You know, I didn't get to share with you, but many years ago, I incurred over $16,000 worth of credit card debt my first semester in college. And it was one of the most trying times. And I felt so stressed, had so much anxiety. And I was working 3 jobs just to get out of debt, because nobody is teaching us what we need to know about our debt, right? And so one of the things that we want to teach you is, here's some strategies on getting out of debt, okay? Number 1, don't get into more debt. Yes, that is a strategy. You know, if you can live below your means, you don't need that extra credit card, quite honestly. You know, in my country, in the Philippines, you know, before it became westernized, you could never buy anything unless if you had savings. This is the only country that I know that you could actually buy stuff with no money. Why do I say that? Because everything's on credit. You know, they say you're nobody till you owe somebody, Sylvia. You know what that means? Try buying a house or a car and you don't have any debt, any credit. You cannot. So they teach you to get in debt first. Well, we got to make sure people don't get into debt. Use cash, prepaid credit cards, right? Build up your savings first. Pay only what's necessary, right? Don't overpay for things. Cut out unnecessary expenses. You know, in the US, credit card debt as of 2013 was over 2.8 million. That means on average, each family owes, right, 16,000. Matter of fact, that's what the average family owes. So if you owe more than 16,000, guess what? Dorothy, you are above average. And I don't know, this is a time you want to be above average, right? You never want to be above average because we owe more, right? And so some people, right, if you owe less than that, right, Michael, you're below average. This is the only time in life you want to ever be below average. You don't want to be an average person when it comes to debt, okay? So the objective for a person is to get out of debt and begin living within their income means. So when it comes to credit card debt, what can a family do? First thing is this. Yes, quite honestly, freeze them. You can do it in the literal sense, like literally take your credit cards, put it in a bucket, put some water and put it in the freezer. Yes, you could do that. Why do I say that? Some of us might need that because we just don't have enough discipline not to use it. So imagine when you need to use it, can you imagine going to your refrigerator and trying to break the ice? Be a hard thing to do, be a sad state to be in. But some of us might need that, right? So there are two ways you can actually freeze your credit line. You can do it in the literal sense, right? But really what you want to do is contact the creditor and tell them, please stop sending me offers to increase my credit limit. You know, every time you pay something off, guess what they want to do? They entice you with more credit. They say, oh, we got a special offer, Dorothy. We'll give you 0% financing for the next 12 months and we'll increase your credit limit. And we're thinking to ourselves, wow, that's a good deal. 0 interest. Let me use it now. And then 12 months roll around. They say, oh, by the way, you didn't pay it back. Now it's at 21% interest. And then we're stuck, right? The other way is this. Be disciplined. Stop using the cards. Take credit cards out of your purse or your wallet. Put them in a safe place. Hide them. Or you might even need to do what we call like plastic surgery. You know what plastic surgery is? You actually cut up the plastic. You might need to do that. So when it comes to a credit line freeze, this is what you got to understand. Once a credit line is paid off, is it a good idea to close the account? True or false? The answer is false, right? Don't close it out. Just don't use it. Just put a freeze on it. Don't let them off. Tell them to stop sending you offers. You can do that. You can opt out to getting offers, right? The reason why we encourage you to keep it and not completely close it out because that will affect your credit score, right? If you close out your credit lines, you'll find that your credit score might likely drop, okay? So you want to just make sure that you have good credit. So don't close out anything, but you can put a freeze on the credit line, okay? Did you know the average family spends about 25% of their income on taxes and about 10% on servicing debt? You know what that means? If we're spending 10% of our money servicing debt, does that mean we're getting out of debt? The key word is servicing, not getting out of debt. That means we're just paying enough to get by, not to get out of debt. We got to figure a way to change that, right? We got to figure a way to get out of that. And so Delita is going to move on to the second part, right? And share with you more in depth, right? About a certain strategy on how we can get out of debt sooner or later. And so, you know, it's my privilege to be able to have her co-host with me today. She's a phenomenal instructor by profession. She's an educator, has an incredible passion to help people. You'll see that come through her today. But man, you got to pay close attention to what she says. You know, some of the things that she talked about in regards to getting out of debt, as well as understanding this concept called Rule of 72 is incredibly powerful. But remember what I said. It's only powerful if you know how to apply it. So you got to pay close attention to what she has to share over the next second half of our workshop today. So if you can, right, just humor me, okay, humor us. Can you show her some love? That means we know we're hearing you, right? So thank you so much. We appreciate you. So go ahead, Delita. I'll turn it away to you.
Thank you, Carl. I have my daughter and one of my newly promoted directors in the background. So I actually have an audience over here. So, hey, everybody. Right? For me, Carl, not you. It's my lipstick from left to right. And then from which side do you start shaving like every day? Isn't it funny? Like the habits, and no matter how many times I do this, I still always put the left thumb on top. Although I know what we're doing, I still put that left, my arm still goes over first. And so this just talks about the habits that we have. And so, like Carl, some of those things that he talked about, very much I can apply. And I tell you how application really begins to change your life. So we're going to go through this together. And in the next slide, if you don't mind, in fact, I will actually pull up here too. We're going to talk about the spending habits, right? What is the true cost of debt? And you're paying lots of interest to someone else. This money is actually not working for you. And so, one of the concepts we're going to talk about today is the rule of 72. And the rule of 72, some of you may have heard of it. For some of you, it might be very new. It's actually very near and dear to my heart. Yep, I see you guys posting, because that's actually how I ended up here in terms of deciding that this would be a path that I wanted to journey along. My background is in higher education, student affairs. I went to University of Delaware undergrad. Got a bachelor's degree in psychology. Originally thought I wanted to become a psychiatrist until they told me in my residency I would need to work with rats. And then I decided, nope, that wasn't going to work. So I switched from psychiatry to higher education student affairs, and then went to Indiana University and got a master's degree in higher education en route to Rutgers to get my doctorate. I thought I wanted to become a president of the university. Life happened in my family. My brother's wife passed away 7.5 weeks after giving birth to their first child. She was 29 years old at the time. Her heart enlarged during the pregnancy. And it was at that time that I got a job working for the president at University of Maryland, Baltimore County. His name was Freeman Hrabowski. And with a master's degree, I was making less than $40,000 a year. I remember the shock. And the reality of it is that my credit cards and my student loans were actually more than my full-time income. And some of you can relate to that. And so when I learned about this concept, and I'm forever grateful to our company and to our team here and to the educational platform that we have, because it's this concept that I'm going to share with you right now that has literally changed my life forever. And so the concept was developed by Albert Einstein. And what it says is take the number 72, divide it by the interest earned. And what you're going to find out is the number of years it will take for your money or your debt to double, your investment or your debt to double. So if you take 72 and you divide it by 4, what do you get? 18, right? You move on. 72 divided by 8, it's going to be 9. And 72 divided by 12, it's going to be 6, right? And so if a credit card has a rate of 18%, how long will it take before that borrowed amount doubles? That is the question that you ask yourself, which would be 4 years ago. And so some of us, in fact, many of us on this call today, were old enough to remember about 12, 14, 15, 16 years ago, interest rates on credit cards was like 10, 11, 12%, not this 24, 26, 28%. And so I had a credit card where I was actually being charged 12%, and 72 divided by 12, as you can see here, is 6. And it was in a meeting not so similar to this one because we didn't use Zoom, but we were actually sitting in a physical location. And as this person was going through teaching this, I remember thinking, oh my goodness, I have $16,000. Actually, it was a little over $16,000 on a credit card. And 72 divided by 12, in 6 years, that $16,000 was going to more than double, right? So when we go to the next slide, this is what we're going to find. The spending habits that we talked about, and having habits in general. When you look at the rule of 72, interest of 8%, now if you have a credit card, right, and you have a debt that interest is going to double every 9 years. And so it's going to be 4, 8, 16, 32, and then what? 64, right? And that's all based on interest. And then if you slide it over and instead of 8%, you get 12%. And by the time you drop it down at 66, you have over $250,000. Wow. And then what happens at that 18%? Still you're 30 years old, still you started off with that 4,000, but you're talking by the time you're looking at having a decent retirement, because there was no financial education, because a person was not financially literate, they now owe over $2 million in credit card debt. And such is the same with many people in their student loans. You see people into their 50s and 60s still talking about student loans. So I want to let you know today that you're in the right place at the right time with the right vehicle. And we have to learn not just how money works and how money moves, but we have to learn the rules to money so that we are in power positions to literally act on our own behalfs. And so this right here is showing us that your money has muscle. And so when you go forward, you look and you see if you need a debt counseling service, what do you think? What happened to your credit score, right? They actually tell you, if you call, don't pay your debt we're going to work out a plan for you. Don't pay on this card, because if you pay on this card, it's actually going to affect the plan that we're working out for you. So what do you think actually happens to your credit score when you actually stop paying your bills on time and relinquish that responsibility to someone else? I want to actually get a little bit personal with you. And I know we got about 123 people on here, but I want to let you know that you can do it yourself because of what I've learned here. I was a person that had a credit score I would say ranging between 825, 830 on up to 840, 844. And life happened. And when life happened, my credit, not immediately, but over a period of about 3-4 years, because of life circumstance, dropped all the way down to 483. That was my low. But because of financial education, and because of financial literacy, and also because of being in position to make more, increase the credit score back up to 787, 788, and still climbing. So is there another way? When we look at how to apply the principles, yes, you can apply the principles of the debt roll-up strategy. Point number 2, debt roll-up starts with increasing your cash flow and being able to make more money. I'm not going to get political today, but I just want to make a general statement that in general, one would have us believe that just because there are better jobs, that you're going to be okay. I just want to be very clear that it's not the job. There years ago, we would see that people could depend on the job and work a job for 20 and 30 years and retire from that job. And that job would say, thank you. And they would give you a pension in relationship to your time. And if you ever meet anyone that's actually living off a pension, they can tell you how unsatisfactory that is to them. And so when you look at when we talk about cash flow and increasing it, I'm not just talking about having the traditional means, because if another pandemic happens, we then see shutdown happening. We have to be in position to create and to identify our own means. Point number 3, attack, right? What we want to be able to attack the smallest debt balance first, so that we like recognition, right? We want to be able to see I've accomplished something. So when you have that smallest debt first, 1, you have a feeling of accomplishment, but 2, there's a psychology behind it. So let's go to the debt roll-up. What is the effect of this repayment schedule that we're going to look at, right? When we look at this repayment schedule, we have a long list of debts and obligations and responsibilities that befall upon us. Everything from mortgages to car loans to, miscellaneous credit cards. And don't forget, a lot of people do their holiday shopping on credit cards. And so there's balances attached to that, in addition to interest rates and monthly payments, right? And when you look at this screen here, I want you to pay close attention to the monthly payment schedule. And you'll find why when we go to the next slide. why, but pay close attention to that monthly payment schedule. And then the number of payments remaining, right? The number of repayments remaining, and also the real debt month payment schedule, the payments right there. I want you to pay close attention to that. Now we can go to the next slide. When we go to the next slide here, the present debt payment schedule B, with this, that monthly minimum payment, this is the amount that says, so long as you send us this amount, we're not going to send you to collections, and we will actually report that you're paying this on time. When you're looking to get out of debt, you want to know what's your minimum monthly payment. You already know what you've been sending them, but I need you to identify what the minimum is and what your interest rate is. Likewise, let's apply that we add, let's just say an extra $100, right, to what we're going to put on. So we take $100 to the minimum monthly payment. So what we're going to send them is actually what? $125, right? And then we're going to take that same strategy, and after we've paid off that debt, we continue to put in place what we call the debt roll-up effect. So now that 125 that we were already doing, we're going to keep doing that. And we've already paid off another bill, and you can bring up the full screen for me. You've already paid off another bill. So you're going to see how it's going to continue to basically become a cyclical effect where we're applying and rolling. Once you pay off the debt, you don't then say, well, that debt is gone. Now I have an extra 150, 176 I can go spend. No, we're going to take it and utilize discipline. See, discipline and consistency are not only the keys to building our wealth. Discipline and consistency are also the keys to eliminating our debt, right? And it's a beautiful thing. So now, instead of almost 30 years, what happens now is you will be able to pay off your debt. Somebody is being able to see the light right now. Some of you thought, man, I don't know how I'm going to get out of debt. I'm going to be paying this debt forever. It's a lie, and it is not true. You're going to be able to apply this strategy. And now in a less than 13 years, you can become debt free. And by the way, this is actually only utilizing your existing money, your existing plan. This is money you already have in your own house. You haven't even started bringing in any additional money. Just imagine if you're able to bring in another stream of income, and we're going to get there, but I just wanted you to have that visual. So before, what you had was your current debt of $225,475 with a monthly payment of $21.86. That total real debt being over $450,000 in 29 years. In summary, you see the debt is the same. The monthly payments increase slightly. You're utilizing the strategy. The real debt decreases, and now you have actually brought back time. Don't nobody got time to be paying no debt off for 30 years, right? So what the difference just an additional $100 can make? What if you actually said, instead of 100 on that, I'm going to do 200, right? I'm going to put 300 on it. My goodness. Now, what I want you to commit to do is to make sure that you implement. Do not just take the information you get here today and say, man, that was so awesome. Apply it. Make sure you're in your worksheets. Again, go back to this book. If you don't have this book, get this book. As Carl said, write it down on a sheet of paper and start applying. And then what I ask you to do is to share it with another sister, share it with another brother, share it with one of your community members. Who are you playing tennis with? Or one of your sorority members or church members, or whatever the case may be. We are creatures of habit, are we not? See, here at WSB, World System Builder, we believe that it's important to create good habits by getting out of debt and saving money. That is actually what we're all about. That is actually what we believe. And so with that, we need to also prepare for an emergency. And what does that look like? Well, with emergencies, it might be car, home. It might be our own health. We hope not. We've known many people to be laid off from their jobs. We've actually seen businesses close down completely, or maybe some home appliance. And so we also have to prepare in case there's a rainy day. My grandmother used to say, we called her Nanny. My grandmother used to say, baby, if you've never had a rainy day, just keep living. It's coming, right? And so we have to prepare for that. And I tell you, for me in 2010, I never anticipated that I would have taken off from work at such a young age. And as a young woman, 35, 36 years old at that time, right? 3.5, almost 4 years. So if I did not have the practice of saving, there would have been nothing to be able to survive off of. So you never know when life will come. And so reasons for having an emergency fund, we can go next, are very important. No matter how much you plan in life, the unexpected happens. To prepare for life's little disasters, you set up an emergency fund to help pay for these things, like all of these repairs. And then how much do you actually begin to save? It's important. So maybe you start little, right? We go to the next slide. You start with maybe saving $1,000, right, for the first month. And then you're able to move from $1,000 and increase to 3 times, and then what, 6 times, right? Your income, and do that over a period of time. Listen. You didn't get into debt overnight, and it's not going to get out to debt overnight. I want you to have a measure of patience with yourself, encourage yourself along the way, even develop a group and accountability partners. One of the things I love about our community is that we encourage each other. You know, Carl and I have actually known each other. My goodness, it's actually been, I think, over 15, 16, 17 years, I think, that we've known each other. It's been a long time, right? So having partners that you can grow with and actually share your dreams with and develop success stories with is pretty awesome. So maybe you start with 1,000, and for some of you, you can start with that 1,000 this month. That's not a big deal. Boom, it's already done. Some of you may be at the path, well, I can't start with 1,000 this month, but I could do 250. Start where you are, right? And then build it up. Build it up, build it up. When we go to the next slide, the next thing that's important to understand is, where do you put this emergency fund? Our emergency fund is not our credit card. We don't want to go to the credit card when we have an emergency. You can set aside money in low risk bond, mutual funds, money market funds, or if you have a separate account at the bank, make sure you don't have easy spending access to it, right? So you're out and you see, man, a very nice sale, and you're like, oh my goodness, I just have to have it. That's not an emergency. That's a want, right? So we don't want you to have easy access to that thing, because remember, discipline and consistency are the keys. I love what Carl said earlier about, you know, letting it sit for 3 months, right? And if at 3 months it's still not number one on that list, then guess what? It's just not that important anymore. I really love that, right? And so I want to share something with you. I want to read something too that's very, very important. I made a post earlier today, and it talked about being able to stand tall, and it just really connects to where we are. And so in a few moments, I want to just read something to you that really touched my heart. But when we look at these final thoughts right here, would you be willing to be disciplined with spending and live the rest of your life debt-free? See, cash is key. Maybe it's time for you to perform plastic surgery on most of your credit cards, right? Sitting on the side, getting them out of immediate usage so that you can have the discipline and consistency to clear that debt. And by the way, I told you about the debt, but I don't know if I told you about how I got out of debt. After putting myself in position to create an additional stream of income here, within 3 months, that $16,000 worth of credit card debt was cleared out. 4.5 months thereafter, my undergrad and my graduate student loan was clear out. See, what you want to be able to do is buy things you need, not what you want. See, who are you going to work for every day? Is it your employer, the government, the bank? I venture to say that the most important person is actually yourself, because guess what? You're going to benefit most from your hard-earned money. Your family is going to benefit most from your hard-earned money. And so we want to make sure that you put yourself first. And so we can go to the next slide. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. This is what I want to read to you. With savings, a person can walk tall. The state of your savings does have a lot to do with how tall you walk. Your savings affects the way you stand, the way you walk, the tone of your voice, your physical well-being, and your self-confidence. A person without savings is always running. He or she must. He must take the first job offered, or nearly so. She sits nervously on life's chairs because any small emergency throws her into the hands of others. Without savings, a person must be too grateful. Gratitude is fine in its place, but a constant state of gratitude is a horrible place in which to live. A person with savings can walk tall, Mary. He may appraise opportunities in a relaxed way and have time for judicious estimates and not be rushed by economic necessity. A person with savings, Sylvia, can afford to resign from her job if her principles, Terry, so dictate. And for this reason, she will never need to do so. A person who can afford to quit is as so much useful to, you can go next, to his company and therefore readily promoted. He can afford to give his company the benefit of his most candid judgments. A person with savings, Levita, can afford the wonderful privilege of being generous in family and neighborhood emergencies. He can take the level stare of any man, friend, stranger, or enemy. The ability shapes her personality and even her character. The ability to save has nothing to do with the size of your income. It actually doesn't matter how much money you make. Angela, you can save. Many high income people spend it all, darting life like minnows. But as the Dean of American Bankers, J.P. Morgan, once advised a young broker, take waste out of your spending and you'll drive the haste out of your life. Sudhir, if you don't need money for college, a home, or retirement, then save for confidence and with self-esteem and peace of mind that comes from having savings, and walk tall through life. That is why we're here. That is what our campaign is all about. And that is what I desire to share with you. And so we know that one way to increase cash flow is to spend less. Another aspect of saving is to increase cash flow, is to earn more. And so how do we accomplish that? You can do that by being a business owner. When we look at the quadrant, what we see here is that you have 1, 2, 3, and 4 blocks before you. You can have a job. You can own a business and people work for you. See, when we look at as an employee, you have a job, right? There's few tax advantages as an employee, right? As a self-employed person, you own a job, right? Absolutely. Thank you, Luis. And as an investor, money works for you. See, if you look to the left side of this right here, we see that 80% of people typically fall in the comfort zone of being an employee. It's predictable. I know. Some venture out to become self-employed, but the 80% falls over here. The 20% says, you know what? I'm actually going to own a business where I have people working with me and for me, and I'll even develop a platform whereby I can be an investor. Therefore, my money is working for me. You know, your money works for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365. Money works even when you're sleeping. Your money, I declare and decree, has muscle. The question is, are you exercising and building upon that muscle? 20% over here utilizes the tax advantages. And I want to be very clear. It used to be that you had wealthy America, largely middle class America, and then you have poor America. Well, the middle class is shrinking very, very, very quickly, to the point where you will either be wealthy or you will be poor. And this is what it comes down to, that knowledge in and of itself is not the power. It's being able to apply that which we learn. So which would you rather be? An employee? A self-employed person? A business owner? Or an investor? I'll tell you, for me, Abby, Miss Elaine, it has been the most wonderful gift to be able to start a life off in the footsteps of my mentors that said, you know what? I'm very grateful. Go to school, get a degree, Dalitha. Hey, you're doing good. Get another degree. Hey, I learned a lot on that path. But I'm so grateful that very early on, I was able to see I cannot continue this alone, but to develop the business owner since an investor to be able to help many other people journey through life and develop a place where you can increase your cash flow, manage and eliminate debt. And we can go to the next slide. So remember, money is time. Consider an additional source of income or a new business career in the fast-growing industry with World Financial Group as a world system builder. You can start part-time here, as I did, as Carl did, as many other people did, Michael and Regine, right? Many people have started part-time and done some amazing things. Team Chu, David Pham, share and educate families to understand all aspects of financial services. It doesn't matter what you do for full-time. What matters is first and foremost, this button that you see here, that you say, you know what? I connect with the heartbeat of financial education, of financial literacy. I want to be a part of an organization that wants to help, that is helping, and not just by words, by deeds. That whether it's 9 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 8 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock at night, you can find us teaching financial education and financial literacy to the masses. You help one family per month. You help people save. You can potentially earn an extra $1,000 per month, $5,000 per month, or more. You know, I shared with you my story of being able to clear out $16,000 worth of credit card debt in 3 months. That clearly is not $1,000 per month. It depends on who you are. Where are you in your life? What do you want to accomplish for yourself? Now is the time to be in the driver's seat of your life. You can go to the next slide. I love in this book right here. It says, is money controlling you or do you control money? This book right here, I told you to get your hands on. With this financial foundational program that we just shared with you, you're going to learn how to have money work better for you, find and save more money, understand investments and build wealth, and protect and preserve your money. In looking at what we've talked about here today, what you see before you as a business owner are all the different deductions and possibilities of being able to get tax breaks and have those tax advantages. Why not become your own money manager? You can learn the habits of successful people and put extra savings in your pocket, right? How do we increase cash flow? You can learn and earn in the financial industry. Become your own professional money manager, as I just read to you. You become a financial professional. You save money, you make money, you grow money. And many of you know the name Warren Buffett. If you don't know the name, Warren Buffett is one of the world's greatest investors. He says there's 2 rules that you need to know about money. Rule number 1, never lose money. That's preservation. Rule number 2, always remember. Rule number 1, don't lose money. You know how to make money, and you make money go work for you. Your money has muscle, right? And we move towards a wealthier habit, a better future together. That is what you do. And I want you to do it with pride every step of the way and become a very strong builder in your life. You can go to the next slide for me. Thank you. And so remember that financial independence, it's not a dream, it's a decision. And so you make that decision. We've made that decision, and we build that decision together. Did we help you find ways to increase cash flow? I believe we did, right? Did you learn some things today, Bernadette? Right? I'm looking at Mr. Miranda. Yes, he got big smiles on his face. Listen, contributing $200 per month in savings, returning 10% equals over $400,000 in 30 years. Wow, Miss Dorothy. Yes, it requires commitment and discipline, but you can do it. It's feasible, Len. It's feasible. What else did you learn that will help you increase your cash flow? Miss Sharon, what else did you learn, right? What else did you learn from this workshop? We want you to tell us what you've learned. We want you to post in our community. If you're not a part of our WSB Facebook community, say, hey, enter me into your community. We are tracking how many people we're actually educating by 3030. 30 million families is our goal, and we are going to hit it. Our first goal was 1 million, but by July 2020, and we surpassed that. So we have a new goal. There's 118 of you on here. You are now going to be a part of our 30 million, right? So say, hey, I want to be a part, Michael, of this 30 by 30. We're on campaign together, Miss Kitty. Let's do it. And so now we're going to give you some homework. You said, wait a minute. It was great until she said homework. I didn't know we had homework, right? Well, easy, easy, easy. It's not going to be hard homework. Here's what I want you to do. Easy homework, okay? I want you to sit down with your trainer, or the person who invited you here today. And I want you to go through your personal financial strategy, right? I want you to make sure that you can take advantage of everything that we talked about here today. So set that up. Let that be the immediate thing that you do coming out of here today, that you call or you text that person, hey, I was on, let's set up. They said my personal financial strategy. I also want you to get your hands on a little blue book called Saving Your Future. Saving Your Future, right? It's 86 pages of power. It's in English, it's in Chinese, it's in Vietnamese, it's in Spanish. If I didn't say your language, volunteer, let's get it in that one too. I want you to read pages 1 through 15 and then think of some other people that can also benefit from what you've learned here today and invite them. We have a workshop tonight and we also have workshop tomorrow. And then if you are a member, I want you to really take advantage of all the membership benefits that we have in our orientation class and attend the next class, which is workshop number 2, building a strong financial foundation and proper protection, right? And we want you to take this journey with us. I tell you, money is good for fun, it's good to invest, and it's good to give, right? Philanthropy and charity. And we're happy that we were able to give our time to you today. And so I want to thank WSB for having Carl and I take this time to share with all of you. I want to thank my partner, Carl, for doing a phenomenal job and us working together to bring to you workshop number 1, increasing cash flow and debt management. Carl, any final words, sir? Thank you so very much.
Yes. Again, we appreciate everyone for taking the opportunity to be here. Can we again give my co-host, Dalitha, an incredible round of applause for closing out Workshop 2. Phenomenal job. I want to leave you with this thought, as I've said already many of times, right? Number 1, if what we shared with you makes sense, get involved, participate, right? Do more with your money. Number 2, if you believe it's going to put you in a better position, take action. And with final thought, right? Someone that I refer to as a coach, which happens to be many of us here refer to him as head coach. He says it the best. He says, financial education without application is a fantasy. I personally say financial education without application or action is simply useless. Because no good having information if you don't use it, right? So let's go out and let's use this information. We will give you an opportunity to ask any questions. If you have any question, your lines are able to unmute. So feel free to ask a question if you have any.
Yes.
Or if you want to write in the chat line, Dalitha and I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Hi, Dalitha and Carl. My name is Dorothy Falov. I just joined and paid my $100 last night, late this morning. I am just so in all of your stories, and I love how you're applying your lifetime or your personal life to this. So this cash flow, oh my goodness, I haven't gotten a chance to get the workbook yet, but I love the idea of the 72 that Sis Dalitha mentioned.
Okay.
And Carl, I don't think I'm ever gonna forget. I'm gonna forget the laundry analogy. That is so good. That was good for me. So being my first time and being here, I'm excited because um Delisa, I joined not knowing I myself got my MBA, but I
Okay.
joined last night because of something that happened in the beginning. In time, I'll share my story, but I'm just so thankful. You guys did such a great job. For a beginner like me, I really enjoy it. So I'm going to be coming on a lot now.
Awesome. We are glad you're here. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for that share. You know, we like to hear and engage with the audience. So thank you for unmuting and actually
Thank you guys. That's awesome.
and respect your background as well. So thank you so very much for that. I see a couple of questions, Carl. For Christina, you can obtain the workbook by reaching out to the person that invited you, and they can get you both the workbook as well as the Saving Your Future book. That's what you can do to that. Just reach out to them and say, "Hey, I need to get my hands on the workbook and the Saving Your Future book." To Abby, we Carl and I, we do teach our workshops weekly. This is actually our first time doing it for WSB nationally. So if you like us nationally, you continue to let WSB know, but we typically do them with our local financial centers and still do them for, our own teammates throughout the United States. But this is our first time doing it here, but we do
Yeah.
do workshops weekly.
And I'll say this, right? Whether it's Dalitha or myself, right? All the workshop instructors are incredible.
Phenomenal.
They come from many different walks of life, many different experiences. So they have a wealth of knowledge. So I would
Yeah.
encourage you, right? We have workshops Monday through Friday. And it's set on a cycle. If you don't know the schedule, you can just go to our main page, which is worldsystembuilder.com,
Mhm.
and you can do /WS-US, right? That's where you'll see the schedule. So I'll put it in the chat line in case if you didn't know where it's at. But again, whether it's myself or Dalitha, I do want you to know that we have incredible instructors nationwide,
Absolutely.
and we are fortunate to be one of the few individuals that have been asked to teach this workshop. But by all means, attend all the workshops, right? And learn from many others. You know, I myself have attended workshop one outside of giving it many of times just to listen to different instructors,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they all give different advices, different experiences, different ways for us to understand how to do better. But, you know, to me, I think if you enjoyed what you see today, this is just the tip, right? This is just the beginning. Remember, this is only workshop one. Right? If you love Rule of 72 today, wait till you see it in workshop 3 as it applies to your money. Then
Yeah.
you'll be thinking, why in the world didn't somebody tell me this like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago? What is wrong with the world today? And what you'll find, like many of us that are part of this campaign, you'll find what's wrong with the world today is we don't have a community that's out there championing this cause to provide financial education. That's why many of us got involved. You know, many of us come from different walks of life, different careers, and successful in our own rights, in our own professions. But why are we a part of this community? Because we need a community such as this to provide financial education. So people like Dorothy, right? That's not overlooked. People, you know, like Bernadette, or Mary, or any one of us, that you're not overlooked by the current industry, that you actually have an outlet, especially because we live in a world where everyone wants to do it themselves. But when it comes to money, who's teaching us how to do it ourselves when it comes to money? You know who's teaching? WSB.
That's right.
Our community is teaching people how to do it themselves. We're teaching you how to be your own money manager, right? Hey, Mr. Charles, good to see you.
Hey, good to see you. You know, I understand you saying there's a lot of good instructor in WSB, but you know, I know you, Carl, because you know you've been to Las Vegas, Sahara Peninsula. The way you teach is different from other instructor. Same thing with Delita. I mean, first time I got into, I've been to a workshop how many times in my career in WSB, but since I know you're doing the CPP in Vegas, I know you how you articulate the message. That's the way I look at it. It's not about because you know it's good or not. There's a lot of good instructor in WSB. You know what I mean. But it's just
I
the
do.
way you guys articulate Dalita and you combine. It's awesome, man. It's
Well,
really great.
I appreciate the vote of confidence and the
No,
very
seriously.
kind words. The
Yes.
very kind words. But again, I want you to know, right? What makes us so fantastic as a community is you don't have to be the best. You just know how to plug people in to where you can be given the best, right?
Agree.
That's what makes our community so phenomenal. But again, there's so many great instructors that are out there. And Charles, I do appreciate all the kind words, right? But I don't want to take anything away from them because why? We have a system. Our business is run systematically.
I agree.
You know, financial education, whether it's myself speaking, Delita speaking, the education is necessary and needed for all. It may be that we have to listen to many more times because maybe we don't understand the instructor. It's okay too, right? Just know that we have a system in place, right? But I do appreciate, Charles, the vote of confidence and kind words. Thank you so much.
Very wonderful, man. Is Sandra raising her hand to ask a question? I see a raised hand by Miss Sandra Sullivan. Sandra, you have a question? Or you just were raising your hand? I don't want to call you out. I just saw a raised hand.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, ma'am, we can. We did. Well, you went back on mute. If you unmute, we can hear you. Okay.
Okay. My question was earlier was how to get a workbook, and you answered that. And I also had another question about the saving money. You answered both my questions that I had asked previously.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I want to thank you guys for a great workshop. This was my first one, and I learned a lot.
Thank you. We're glad you're here. Thank you so much.
Hey, can I ask you this, right, for the remaining people down here? If you enjoyed today's workshop, can you make sure you just let the WSB community know so that we can spread the word, so that we can get them to attend workshop 2, workshop 3, workshop 4. The more that you share on the WSB community how this information has helped you, the more people will get engaged in attending more workshops.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. That would be wonderful. Okay. All right, you guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate you all. Have a wonderful day. Be safe. Blessings to you. Thank you, WSB. Thank you, Carl.
You guys have a great, yes, thank you, Delita. You guys have a great afternoon. Still continue to stay social distancing, but still stay socially connected, right? Be safe, guys. You have a great afternoon.
I really appreciate it. We learn a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Delita. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Delita.
Awesome.
Okay.
Bye. Joy.
Bye.